Hello buddy, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at our 7.10 patch notes analysis and tier list video. So I'm combining them back into one video again for this session. The last patch I did them in two separate videos because there was so much content to cover, but this time I have to combine them back together. There's not as much stuff to cover, and I'd like to try to do that in about 1 hour. And I think it's nice if it's all consolidated on one video. If this is the first video of mine that you've seen with the patch notes, then you can follow along with this Google Doc in the description. You can find a link. And we're just going to talk about the patch notes first, and then we're going to go down and talk about meta-analysis a little bit, and then we're going to talk about our 7.10 tier list overall. So you'll see some familiar faces down here, but you might see some different ones as well. And I did modernize all of the little mini guides. So if you just click on the link right below the champion, it'll tell you matchups. It'll tell you who the champion's good with, who they're good against, who they're bad with, who they're bad against, recommended items, runes, masteries, and if I have a complete guide, then I will link you the complete guide as well, and I'm always adding in more guides. So a little bit of extra information to help you out, and I have that for the top 15 champions or so, and then some of the ones that have fallen down the list that used to be much more popular, like Malzahar, Misfortune, and Galio. I've got some of those as well. And then I also have timestamps in the description also, so if you want to just kind of skip around and find the moments that are most interesting to you, then you can do that. I know everybody is not going to have time to watch a full hour-length video, so I just put it all out there for you like a buffet, and you can jump around and find the most interesting parts. Now, I will admit that I just had to restart the video, which was very annoying because I was about 20 minutes deep in it. And I had I thought I'd exited out of Discord last night, but somehow it had come back up, and some random person came in there and started yelling some racist stuff, so I just had to completely restart the video because I don't edit these, I do them all in one shoot, so it's a little annoying because now I'm going to be substantially late for the stream, but I just need to get this done, and so I guess we'll just go through it again. And the stream does start typically around 9 o'clock most days. Some days if I have stuff going on, it's a little bit later. But if you want to catch the stream, it's on YouTube, just the Strategy Professor on YouTube, and you'll find the live stream. All right, so let's first talk about Heimerdinger here. Where did I click? I clicked on something weird. Oh, I clicked on that. Okay. So let's talk about the Heimerdinger changes first. All right, so they made a lot of changes to Heimerdinger. I don't think that it's going to really be that significant, at least for the support role. It might get played in the middle role. I just click on this link, the Wikipedia. I like to use this in addition to the patch notes because the patch notes will tell you sort of what changed, but it won't give you the overall picture, and a lot of people may have forgotten exactly what Heimerdinger does. So I like to use both of them. Okay, so let's just skip through this really quickly. He has really low base stats, extremely low health, low mana regen, pretty good range, 550, low magic resist, armor. His movement speed's okay, so very squishy, exactly as you would expect just by looking at him. The Sextech affinity is much weaker than his old passive. It looks really nice, 20% movement speed around turrets, but it's very, very low range. It says 300, but it feels like you have to be basically right on top of the turret to get the bonus. So it's not really going to come into play that often, unfortunately. Whereas he used to give some extra health regeneration by standing near turrets, and I think he actually repaired the turrets themselves there for a little while. So that was much better. But anyways, it's not as good as it used to be. Okay, so they changed the turrets up a little bit, so interesting changes. It now scales better with AP, but it has a much lower base damage. So they cut the base damage in half, but with the 0.3 scaling there, the extra 0.15 that you get, then if you have 125 AP, then the level 5 turret will actually do more damage than it did before. So that means you need Morellonomicon completed plus just your AP runes should be fine. So you should be able to do that by level 11 if you have AP Quints, AP Blues, and then just from your masteries, you'll get to 25. So that means roughly, you know, levels 1 to 7, 1 to 8 are going to be less damage, and then you'll start doing more damage over time if you keep stacking up AP. So much better scaling, but much worse early on. However, you do get 3 turrets right away without having to level it up. And they created kind of a combo system with his beam. So the beam really doesn't charge at all unless you hit people with abilities. It charges like once every 90 seconds or something ridiculous like that. However, if you hit someone with all of your rockets or you hit someone with a grenade, then your beams instantly charge. And so what you want to do is get people to walk into 3 turret range. Then you hit them with your grenade stun. You get a free hit with all of your rockets if you do that. And then massive damage ensues. So your grenade itself has a 0.6 ratio. Your rockets, if you hit them with all 5, has a 0.93 ratio. And then your beams, if you have 3 turrets with 2 beams, it's going to be 330%. For a grand total of 483% AP. So if you only have 25 AP to start with, and you hit them with all of your rockets, so you could do this at... theoretically, at level 3? No, I said level 5 because, you know, you needed to have level 3 rockets. Because that'd be realistic at level 5, I believe. Or no, I said you had a level 3 turret, and that's how much the beams would do. Okay, so it'll do a total of 480 damage off of the beams, 108 damage off of the rockets, and 60 off of the... grenade. Let me change this just so it's less confusing. Okay, there we go. So this lines up appropriately. Okay, 108 off the rockets. There we go. Now it's lined up. Okay, so the beams do massive damage. If you hit them with 6 beams, it's 480 damage with a level 3 turret. And then the 483% AP on 25 is an extra 121 damage. So you could do up to 770 damage if you pull that combo off. So that's really, really powerful. However, you have to keep in mind that it's hard to do, the stun's difficult to land, and they have to be at range of all 3 turrets. So, and the turrets only have a range of 525, which most champions, especially in the bottom lane, AD champions, will outrange the turret, except for Lucian and Sivir and a handful of others. But most of them will outrange it. Most of them do... or have 550 range. So that's a pretty big drawback. However, the damage potential is there and it's massive. Now, the big thing about Heimer though, and I watched Scar's patch notes analysis, and this was very similar to sort of what I was kind of thinking when I read this too. This is a huge buff to rockets. So the rockets already have 1325 range, and their cost was reduced by 20 at all ranks. So especially early on, it's only going to be 50, 60, 70 to spam this stuff. And it hits like a truck. Like, it hurts. Did I do any of the math here? Tremendous. It doesn't help with wave clear that much. More powerful poke, more harassment. It doesn't help with wave clear, though, because the rockets get stopped whenever they hit a target. They do not go through targets like I thought maybe they would. So the wave clear is not really that great on Heimer. It's okay. But this is some pretty massive damage. Base damage against minions. Monsters. Anyways, additional non-minion damage. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Okay, so if you max these rockets out, it has a 0.93 ratio, like I said, so you get 48 plus 45. This is how much per... So basically, your first rocket will do this much damage, and the next 4 rockets will do this much damage. So it's... you just take the initial damage, 180... times 1.8, because there's 20% for 4 additional rockets. That's an extra 80%. 324 base with a 0.96 ratio. So if you complete that Morellonomicon by level 9, you're gonna have 125 AP. So that's 324. No. Okay, 125 times 0.96 plus whatever that other number was. It ends up being a lot. Okay, so that's 120 Okay, so you're looking at about 450 damage or so, which is excellent. You know, that's per W, and it's going to be on a 7-second cooldown, so that's a lot of poke. Now, if you get the upgrade with this, it's actually a ton of damage because it can hit with 4 waves. Although it is interesting to note that the initial wave magic damage is actually less. So, until you get to level 11. So if you're level 9 and you finish up your rockets, if you throw a normal micro rocket, it's going to do 180, that number we just described there, okay? So it's going to get up to 444 if you have a Morellonomicon. But with this, it's only going to start at a 135 base instead of a 180 base. So that's not nearly as good. It's going to still have the same 0.96 scaling, and it's going to hit 4 times, but it's not going to be nearly as high until you get to level 11. However, it's still respectable. So, and you're going to do more damage at level 6 because you're only going to have it to level 3 for 120. And then this is going to be 135 at level 6. So at level 6, it's going to be more. But at level 7 and beyond, it'll be less on the initial first rocket. But it is quite a bit of damage. So if you look at, if we do our little math here, we get 135 times 1.8. And then we do off of the scaling with the Morellonomicon, you get the 120, 363, whatever, and it fires 4 times. You know, you're starting to approach 1500 damage on an ult. So all you have to do is hit them with the grenade, stun them, and then just ultimate rocket, and you're going to hit them with all of them. And that combo there is like 1500 damage to completely erase somebody. Now, later in the game, if you get to like 300 AP, and you let's say you get to level 11, level 12, something like that, and you get to 300 AP, that's pretty ambitious. Let's just say it's, let's say 250. So you get to 250 AP. Wait, 4, yeah. 240 times 4. Okay, so that's plus 960 damage. I'm gonna write this down. And then your base is gonna be 180 times 1.8 equals times 4. 1296 plus 960. Going to be doing about 2300 damage once you get to level 11 if you have 250 AP. So you can see really quickly how, like, literally this can one-shot people. Well, not, like, entirely literally, because you have to hit them with a grenade stun. But if you hit them with a grenade stun, overcast these rockets with 250 AP, anything that's a squishy, 100% dead. So that's massive. Massive damage. So I think the rockets are definitely a huge buff. They're a little hard to hit because they can be blocked by minions. And it's a super narrow, like they converge on an area. And it's a very, very narrow hitbox. So it has to be like right on them, like a needle point to hit them. So it takes a lot of practice. It's a little difficult to hit that sometimes. But if you do hit it, it's a ton of poke, and it's a ton of all-in damage. The grenade they changed to make it a little bit better. It's a 12-second cooldown now instead of, I think it used to be something absurd. Yeah, it used to be like 18 seconds, and this was always the last thing that you would max. So that's a pretty good buff as a 1-point wonder. It makes it easier to hit the slow. You might be able to hit them even if you don't land the stun, even if you just hit the slow, because it's a pretty good little slow. It's like 35%. So that makes it a lot easier to hit them. And then you can, you know, upgrade and cast this to get it up to an 80% slow, and it bounces 3 times. However, it can only do damage once per cast, so pretty okay damage, but that's pretty small league compared to what you can do with the overcasted rockets. Then the upgrade just upgrades his abilities, so kind of weak, but it's on a pretty low cooldown. I think most people historically have done that with the massive turret, the upgrade to the Apex turret, which does quite a bit of damage. I mean, each shot that it fires is 80 damage. in addition to its beam damage does a lot more also. But people can run away from this. I really think that Heimer is going to be like kind of like a Syndra-esque type of champion if you're going to play him correctly. That just happens to have some turrets and a little bit less range on the stun. But basically, it's just going to be stun him, hit him with your ultimate, which is going to be this rocket swarm, and it's probably going to do just as much or maybe even more than Syndra if you hit him with all of these. So it's not a point click; it is a skill shot. And at higher levels of play, you know, they might QSS to remove your stun and then roll out of the way of these. But I think that, you know, he'll still be a pretty good just sort of point click, blow him up type of thing. If they don't have a way to get out of the stun, I'm pretty sure all of these will hit him. It says in quick succession. I think all of them would fire within 1 second. So yeah, I think that's what he's going to be. And then he will have some of these turrets. So I think you would max your rockets first, your turrets second. That'll give you a little bit of extra zone control. And then I think you would probably go Morellonomicon. I guess you could go Banshee's Veil, like Morellonomicon plus Banshee's Veil, or Morellonomicon plus like Void Staff or something, maybe. Either one of those two. The Banshee if you want safety, the Void Staff if you just want massive damage. But I think those would probably be the two things that I would steer towards. Rylai's can be good for kiting with the rockets, or with the turrets rather, but you're doing a lot less damage if you do that. So it just depends on what you want to do. I think he's probably just going to be a harder to use Syndra with less reliable poke on a higher cooldown. So I think Syndra is just going to be better probably, but I don't know. We'll see. And the damage potential, what is Syndra's? I'm kind of curious now. What is Syndra's damage potential at with 250 AP at level 9? Okay, so her all in is going to be 230. Now let's just say it's just a real quick boom. You haven't set up any dark spheres or anything like that. Let's say 230, and then you've got these ads. I try to help them out by keeping the ads up, man, but come on. All right, 0.75 times 230. No, it's 250. We said he had 250 AP times 0.75 equals plus 230. Okay, so we've got 417. Get one hit here with a level 2. I think you... I don't know if you level Scatter or Force of Will. We'll say you're leveling Force of Will. So level 2 we'll say, so we'll say plus 110. Actually, let's just do it this way. All right, 70, 75, 50, 195. Each sphere is going to be plus 0.8. Okay, so that it's going to be 275%. So 250 times 2.75, 687. All right, 687. You hit with 4 spheres at... Okay, so 4 spheres, that's 360. Plus a level 1 here, 70, plus level 2 here, 110. Plus a level 5 here, 230. Then plus 687. Okay, so I don't remember what Heimer's was exactly, but I think, wasn't it close to like, I know it was over 2,000. It's like 2,200 or something like that. So, you know, he does way more damage at his all-in at level 11. I Actually, I said level 11, didn't I? Dang it. Okay, so let's do this again. All right, so 135 times 4 plus... This would be... I think this would be level 3 here. Plus 150 plus 70 plus 230 equals, and then you add that to the 687. Okay. So it looks like Heimer's was probably like somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 or 600 more like all-in burst damage. But of course he doesn't have the spammable spheres. You know, he doesn't have a lot of the utility that she has. But his all-in is more or at least comparable to Syndra's all-in. So overall, what does this mean? I think he's okay. I probably spent way longer on Heimer than I wanted to. Yes, of course I did. It's a bunch of sound and fury signifying nothing for the most part, I think. Like, he's interesting. He's cool. Try him out. I tried him out as support, and I will say that it was problematic. But I maxed the turrets. I didn't max the W. It's just too hard to land that W in the stun. He has no regeneration hardly. He can get poked out. I just think there are way better poke champions like Karma in lane that have better map pressure, or Lulu, better wave clear, more utility. So he's interesting, but I just don't think he's going to matter that much. If he does get played, it'll be mid lane, and it'll probably be if Syndra's banned or something like that, and someone just wants a mega burst champion. So it's cool. He has the potential to do a lot of damage, but now if you time all of that together with like beam damage and stuff like that, like his actual, I'm not going to go through that whole scenario, but you can see how much those beams do if you get your turrets at level 3 and you land that grenade stun when they're on your turrets. So against melee champions or like a heavy melee team the enemy might have, he can do just an absolute ton of damage. Because remember, these beams go through, I'm pretty sure they pass through people. So that can actually hit multiple targets in like tight hallways or in the jungle. To all enemies it passes through. Yeah. So even at level 5, you know, if you're in the jungle and you hit 3 people with this, you know, that's a potential of over 2,000 damage. So his all-in team fight damage, if you have something, if you're fighting in tight spaces like in the jungle, or if you have something that can hold people in place like a boomer or whatever, and you just drop 3 turrets, your apex turret, and you just go to work with your grenades. And now, is that per enemy hit it gets a grenade charge? Or it gets a full charge? I don't think it can charge beyond 1 full charge, though. Yeah. So you can't get, like, if you hit 3 people with a grenade, you wouldn't get, like, 3 charges in a row or something insane like that. But still, like, if these beams start firing through tight spaces and you hit grenades and you constantly hit rockets and things like that, it can do a ton of damage in team fights. So I think you would still max your rockets, go for poke in lane, but then in the mid to late game, whenever you get the turrets maxed and these maxed, then he can be a pretty insane team fighter. So we'll see. I mean, he might surprise us all. He might be very, very relevant in the mid lane, but I feel like he's going to get outclassed by a lot of other mid laners. So it's interesting, but I think he'll be a mid laner primarily, and then he'll probably get outclassed by other mid laners, but we'll see. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Rammus here. I think it's going to not matter. I think that the changes to Rammus are not going to matter. I saw 2 people playing him top lane yesterday, and I was not impressed. He gets murdered in lane. He has no wave clear. He just gets completely crushed until he gets more items. And even then, it's still just like, okay, later on. So let's look at what changed about him, though. So he still has okay move speed, you know, good health, good resistances, all that stuff. They did change his spiked shell. It feels like it does less damage now, or if it does more, it's still like mostly irrelevant. I mean, you know, by level 9, he's doing 24 plus. Even if you have 200 armor plus 30, you're getting an extra 54 damage on hit. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. And then his Powerball has a huge AP ratio, but you're not really going to build AP on Rammus typically. It does knock people back and slow them for a little bit. If you max Powerball, it does get a much lower cooldown, but now it can be interrupted. Because it's a channeled ability. It's one of the now it can go really quickly. You know, it can get up to 190 movement speed, level 9, which is really fast. But now it can be interrupted by a lot of stuff. Because one of the things about Rammus before is even if you kind of crowd controlled him while he was powerballed, he could still keep rolling and potentially still get to you. So, for example, if Janna hit him with a Q when he was rolling in, if he still had a lot of time left, he could still just keep going after the Q and still hit you. But now if you hit him with a Q, it'll knock him out of Powerball. You can Soraka silence him with your E and knock him out of Powerball. You can Lulu W him and turn him into a critter and knock him out of Powerball. So there's just a litany of ways that champions can now crowd control him to cancel his channel and knock him out of Powerball. What's the short range? 6. I don't know what short range means, but let's just move that out of there. I don't know why I put that in there. But yeah, it's basically the same, only it's a little bit faster if it doesn't get interrupted, but it can get interrupted, and it goes on a lower cooldown if you max it, which you probably would not do. So, typically I think that's your 1 point wonder. However, this might be your 1 point... No, you need the taunt duration. Anyways, it's not going to matter. It still has a very long cooldown, so you're not going to get it into your third ability, most likely. It's okay. All right, defensive ball curl. Now, it's got 100% uptime, basically. It lasts for 6 seconds, and it's got a cooldown of 6 seconds, which is good. They lowered the total armor on it, though, unless you get a lot of... or the innate base armor on it. So now, basically, you have to get 150 resistances, so 150 armor, and 150 magic resist in order to equal those old bonuses, which is problematic. So before, as Scara said on his stream, you could just stack a bunch of health, and then because you got your W, then you would just be mega tanky. But now you kind of have to choose whether you want to get health or get more armor, and you just don't get that natural amount of tankiness. It also lowers your movement speed by 60%, which just makes it absurdly easy to kite you now. So he's just going to be like crawling towards people, and people can just walk away from him. So that's pretty horrible. I mean, this bonus armor could be a buff if you're against like an all AD team, like 100% all AD, and then you don't even have to worry about your magic resist. Then you could just stack stuff like Dead Man's Plate, Randuin's, Thorn Mail, and stuff like that, and just get a ton of extra armor. Just become, almost unkillable. But people are still going to be able to just walk away from you if they want to. So he's definitely designed very heavily to be like sort of a peeler against melee champions. Champions that can't just walk away. Or else your ranged AD carry, for example, is going to tear him apart if they never go to him. So he's got a much more defensive, like, peel type of feel to him, rather than an initiation and sticking power that he used to have. Okay, so his E is a very bizarre change. I don't understand what the design team's doing here, but he still has the same taunt duration, which is great. But he no longer punctures the armor. So that was one cool thing with old Rammus is if you taunted somebody, especially someone squishy, and you had that flat armor penetration of plus or like minus 25, that was actually very powerful to kill things that didn't get a lot of armor, like maybe a Riven or a Fiora or something like that. But now it doesn't have that, and it increases his bonus attack speed. Or he gets this attack speed bonus of some amount. And it stays active the entire time, so the entire fight, basically, as long as he's using any of his abilities. So it's going to be up the entire fight, but it's like, who cares? He's not going to be itemizing damage. I mean, he might get like a Titanic Hydra or something, maybe. As like a third or fourth item. But this isn't enough extra damage to justify that attack speed. I don't know. It's just very, very bizarre build. Unless there's just things that I'm not thinking of. I don't understand why. Because he's not going to get any on-hit stuff. I don't get it. But anyways, I really wish that they would just lower the cooldown. So why not make it like, you know, 1 second less per level until you get to a 7-second cooldown? Now that would be useful. But anyways, I would be happy if they just made this like lower the cooldown and just make it, you know, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 or whatever, and just don't give it anything extra and just have it be a taunt duration for that. I would be happier with that, because then at least you could get a lot of uptime with CDR. You know, you could make this like a 5 or 6 second CD for a 2.25 taunt, which that would make him actually quite useful. But this, who cares? I mean, I don't care about the bonus attack speed. I don't know. Maybe it's better than I think it is, but it seems like a very bizarre thing, because he's not going to, like, why? It doesn't even make sense from like a lore perspective. Like, why would he be really fast? He's a turtle. Like, what? I don't know. Anyways, I guess he moves fast. I don't know. Whatever. It's a stretch. It's okay. I still think you will probably max. I guess you would max this first, your spike. And then maybe you might actually max this first. I'm not really sure. It's not clear what you should max first, but it might be like this and then this. This is definitely last, but I'm not sure which of these you would max. And this is okay. This does a lot less damage to champions. So it used to do way, way more damage. Yeah, so it only does 120 now at level 3, or 80 at level 2, rather than 130 with less ability power scaling. So it does like negligible damage now to enemies for the most part. However, it does do double damage to structures, which is good for taking towers. And it applies a stacking slow that checks every 1 second and can hold people next to him. So, but this is going to be hard to hold people if you're in your defensive ball curl, because they're just going to walk away from you. So I don't know. It's this weird mix of like he wants to stick to people with his tremors, but he can't stick to people if he's in his defensive ball curl. So he's kind of a peeler. He's kind of a sticker. I think he's underpowered. I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe if you're against like literally an all AD team, and he can just stack all armor. You know, I guess if he gets to like 400 armor or something like that, you know, this would be 60, you know, like 80 extra on hit attack or something like that. Then that could be pretty good, you know, but I don't know. And then that would give him just an obscene amount of extra armor, you know, then he'd have like 700 armor or something. I don't know. It could be something crazy like that, but I think he's going to be a very, very niche pick. Very niche. So he's okay, but I just don't think he's going to matter that much. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the other stuff that actually matters here. All right, so Fizz, huge nerf to tank Fizz. His Empowered W loses 75 base damage on it, which is big, big, big deal. Because, you know, so it goes from, you know, instead of a maximum of 255 damage with the active, it goes to 180. So that's a lot less damage. They gave it a slight bit more ability power ratio, so it's a 1.2 instead of a 1.0. But that's not going to make up for it. You know, it's not going to equal out in damage until Fizz gets 400 AP. Then it'll equal out. So I think that the Banshee meta also hurts Fizz a lot. Especially AP Fizz, because you're not going to be able to hit your fish. You're not going to be able to start fights with fish. You're going to have to go in and find some way to break that Banshees first, unless one of your teammates does it. Yeah, I think that's just going to hurt him. I think Ahri and Kassan are just way better mobile assassins. I think if either one of these is up, there's just no reason to pick Fizz in the middle anymore. And I just think top tank Fizz is gonna, I think it's a huge deal in his trading patterns. I already was kind of skeptical of him, like he could be good, but he could also like fail sometimes too. But I think he's just gonna get absolutely murdered now by things like a Fiora or Darius or any number of other sort of top lane bruisers. Or fighters, excuse me. So I think that hurts tank Fizz. I think he's out of here. think he's done. I don't think we'll see him a lot anymore. Graves, massive nerf to Graves as well. Minus 75 damage on his level 9. So his level 5 Q rotation, rather. Now he gets an extra 0.45 scaling. So that's not going to be a buff, though. You know, it's not going to give him more damage than he had initially until around 175 bonus AD. So he's going to need, you know, like 2 or 3 pretty serious AD items in order to get that bonus. So, and I don't think he builds items like that. Let me see. What does Graves even build typically? I mean, Death's Dance he will like. Or he should like. So, I mean, maybe if he goes Warrior plus Death's Dance. Something like that. I mean, he likes Cleaver too, which is not going to do the trick. It's only got 40 attack damage on it. Phantom Dancer. I'm really shocked that more people aren't building Death's Dance on him now. Because it's area, I guess his Q technically counts as area of effect, even if you're only hitting it on single targets. So, you know, maybe that's why it's just not as impressive against single targets. Cleaver, and that doesn't give you any AD. Yeah, I mean, there's just no way around it. It's going to hurt him. It's going to take him a long time before he gets to the 180 threshold for it to be a buff. Like, very, very late game, probably. So, I think that's bad. And it's going to make him very vulnerable early on. So, he's still going to be popular, probably. But I just think that Elise and maybe Lee Sin, a lot of these early game junglers are just going to absolutely crush him. Especially Elise. Elise is the big winner here with all of these nerfs to early game junglers. We'll talk about Lee Sin getting nerfed here in a second as well. And Ivern. Now, Ivern's not a super early game jungler, but he gets punished really hard by early game junglers. So, Ivern's taken another huge hit. So, Graves overall, he'll be okay, but he might fall out of the meta. People might favor Elise very heavily. This also helps things like Nunu in the jungle, who has a hard time kind of early on until he gets some tank items. It could also help things like Amumu and stuff like that, so we'll see. But yeah, they're definitely hurting a lot of the early game junglers. Now, Ivern, that extra HP that you lose per level is huge. I played 2 Ivern games yesterday on stream, and you get very low early on. Now, fortunately, I'm not playing in a very high bracket right now. I'm playing as other low platinum, so they weren't really punishing me too hard for this, but especially at higher levels of play, I think that this is going to be a big deal. You can invade and kill Ivern easily, even if he doesn't invade you. So, I still think he's very, very strong later into the game with the support itemization. Like, if you have an Ivern plus Lulu on your team or Ivern plus Janna, it's just going to be impossible to kill hyper carries a lot of the time. So, I still think he's going to be meta, but you may not see him as much in pro play. Jungle type of stuff. Especially if we continue to see more like Elise and Lee Sin, just early game aggressive junglers. Now, if we start seeing more, you know, Sejuani's and Gragas's and stuff like that, then you might still see him in pro play, but much, much more dangerous early game clears, but still great mid game utility. Lee Sin's going to be much weaker in the mid game as well. He's got that slower speed, which is okay, but it is relevant. For gap closing, and then he has a 20% longer CD, which is a huge deal. Jax, I don't think is going to matter. So 110 cooldown at level 1 is a big deal, because Lee Sin really needs that to secure kills a lot of times. If he doesn't have his kick, then often he just doesn't have enough burst damage to kill people unless he's super far ahead, and he can't initiate and kick people into fights. So I think that Lee Sin will still be pretty good, but I think he's going to be a lot less effective overall. So, I mean, he's okay, but once again, I think this opens up the gate for more Sejuani, Gragas, and perhaps Nunu in the jungle, because they're just not going to sacrifice as much, because right now those champions aren't picked. Sejuani's picked, but like Gragas and Nunu aren't picked as much early on because they don't have the same kind of early game power. This also makes Master Yi a lot more effective, because Master Yi's early game ganking is awful. But if these champions, you know, all can't do as much early as they used to, then Master Yi could end up being a huge winner there. They're bringing him down to his level early game, and he's going to surpass him late game. Lulu nerf is okay. You know, basically, like, the shield nerf is relevant. You know, going down to 200 shield from a 240 is a big deal, because that not only affects your base shield, but it also affects how much plus healing affects you. Plus healing is already not a great stat on Lulu because her ultimate doesn't scale off of it. And now, because it's just an infusion of health, it's not a heal. And now her shield is not going to scale nearly as well either. So it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you know, it was 240. So that's like a 13% less shield. So that's a pretty big deal. I mean, if we look at just a standard, let's say that you have Redemption plus Wind Speakers or something like that. You get 210 times 1.2 equals a 252 shield. Whereas before you would get 288. So that's a 30 less shield. That's a big deal. I mean, that's about 20% less shield there. So, you know, as you get more plus healing and shielding, if you get a Mikhail's, it just continues to get more and more exacerbated. So if you have a Mikhail's on top of that, that would be 40% plus healing with all of that. So 1.4 times 240. So in the past, you would have had 336. 294. So right there, it's like 40 less shield, 42 less shield. So it does add up. It adds up over time to get some of that less shield. Because remember that shield also stacks with resistances. So if someone has, you know, 100 armor, then now, you know, they're going to have to do, that's going to double the amount of physical damage that it takes to break through that shield. And if there's, what did I say, 42 less shield there? 42 less shield, that means it's effectively, they have 80 less HP that's going to be required to cut through to kill somebody. And if you think, you know, a lot of squishy targets or squishier targets will only have maybe 2,000 HP, then that's 4% less damage, 4% less damage that it takes to kill them. So it is significant, but I still think that Lulu is still going to be overall a very, very strong pick, top of the line, because it's her W that really defines her strength. Her early game harassment with her Q and her W in the mid game is what really defines Lulu a lot of the time. So this is typically something that you max. You don't start maxing until level like 12 a lot of times. Like, I think a lot of Lulu builds, you'll get 2 or 3 points in Q early on just for your wave clear and your harassment. And then in the mid game, you max your W from level 7 to 10. And then, of course, you get your ultimate again at 11. And then you start maxing your E after that. You know, levels 12 to 15 or so. Or whatever it ends up being. So overall, I don't think it's a huge deal. You know, you aren't picking her for her shield anyways. You're picking her for her harass, her crowd control, and her ultimate a lot of times. So I think it's okay. It might change the itemization around on her a little bit more to favor things like Ardent Sensor or, I don't know, heck, maybe even more AP items. I haven't really thought about that too much. But yeah, people may not get, you know, Mikhail's. I think you'll still get Redemption on her, but you may not get things like Mikhail's on her as often just because it's not going to scale nearly as well. But anyways, it's not going to matter. Her early game trading is not going to be nearly as good. I mean, losing 28 health is a big deal. I mean, that's like a quint worth of health that you're losing. So your early game trades are not going to be as strong, but overall, I still think she'll be quite powerful. Okay, Kassadin, laughable, doesn't matter. What the heck? They actually buffed him. I thought it was a nerf. Okay, so basically it has to finish its cast animation, but it has longer range now, so it's not even really a nerf. Very minor nerf. So now, like before, when he started doing his animation, even if you blinked out of it, you would still 100% get hit by it. But now, because it checked on cast, but now it checks after it's finished, so people, you know, during that, you know, 0.1 second cast or something, they can actually dodge out of it if they want to. It's not going to matter. He's still ridiculous. He's still a must-ban champion. Maokai, how are we looking on time here? We're doing okay. I need to speed up though. Maokai is okay. They're making some interesting changes. So they're making his Q a lot more viable. They're lowering its mana cost, so it is spammable. This would be better for top lane Maokai and jungle Maokai. They're lowering the cooldown by a decent chunk. I mean, 1/6 to 17% lower cooldown if you're just spamming this in fights. So that's pretty good. And the knockback distance is a little bit better, an extra 25. So that's actually pretty substantial peeling power there. Now, of course, what they're nerfing is the saplings, because this was popularized by a lot of people, a lot of top-end streamers. I played it some. It was pretty powerful. And they're nerfing it in the right ways, I think, sort of, kind of. The mana cost is 100% something that needed to be nerfed. Like, it's ridiculous. You could just spam this for 60 mana at, you know, at the top rank. But now it's 80 mana, so that's 25% more mana. And if you go for the all AP build now, it's probable that you're going to run out of mana by doing that. That's a big deal, because you don't, like, if you go for the Leandri's Void Staff build, which was very popular, then unless you get a Water Dragon or something like that, you're not going to have a lot of mana regeneration. So that can be pretty problematic. It's going to force you to get mana regen, which isn't the end of the world, because you can get something like a Redemption that gives you 125% mana regen. So, you know, that might be good enough. The damage isn't as big of a deal as people think it is, especially at early levels. Like, it sounds like a lot going from 45 to 25. That's just 20 less damage. And it's going from 6% to 8%, like, at level 1 right away. And so that compensates a lot. So if we look at just some of the math on it, you know, against a 600 HP target, like the 80 carry who has a Doran's Blade or something like that, it'll be around that. At level 1, it's going to do 12 more damage by 2% per level, or 2% per 100 AP, or 2 per 100 AP, because it's 2%. Sorry, I can't talk correctly. So basically, they have 600 HP is 12 additional damage that you're doing off of the percentage-based portion. So you're losing 20 on the base, and you're doing 12 more off the percentage. So that's only 8 less damage overall. Not a huge deal. Now, later on, it is a little bit less. You know, it is 20 at level 9. But 20 is not going to be a huge deal. A lot of targets are going to have, you know, 1,500 to 2,000 health. So, I mean, you're looking at 1 to 2%, you know, longer to kill somebody with these saplings. So, I don't think it's a huge deal later on. Okay, this is actually pretty big. I didn't notice that. Okay, so that stops some of this troll with Thunderlords. Okay, that's actually pretty significant. I hadn't noticed that the first time. So what would happen if you've never seen this before is a single seed could proc Thunderlords, because it would hit them once out of the bush, and then each tick of damage would count as an additional hit. So it would be hit, tick, tick, Thunderlords. So you would proc Thunderlords off of one sapling in a bush, which was absolutely just obnoxious. So now you can't do that. So Thunderlords is going to be bad on him, I think, at this point. So that's actually pretty substantial that I didn't mention before. This, I didn't see that happen that much. That doesn't matter that much. But this is significant. The fact that it can't proc Thunderlords anymore is kind of a big deal. However, I think it's still a lot of damage. It still has a massive surprise factor to it. I still think that he can be Teemo 2.0, as I think Red Mercy called him in one of his videos. However, you might need to do a hybrid build now to get Redemption. I don't know. So I still think you'll want Sork Boots for the penetration. You'll still go your Leandri's and Void Staff, but you might go Eye of the Equinox. This will help you sustain in lane a little bit more. And it'll help you become like a hybrid fighter in the mid game, so that you're not just an all-in sapling, but you can actually get in there and mix it up and help peel and defend. Because he's got some good tools. So this is what differentiates him from someone like a Zyra who has good poke, or someone like, I guess Fiddlesticks is different, but just other poke type of champions, is the fact that he has Bramble Smash and his W are both pretty good peeling tools. You know, or he could go like a traditional Frozen Heart and just get the flat, he could get the armor, which would, instead of a Redemption. Like, you can still get Redemption, but that would give him the CDR, the flat mana, the attack speed reduction, and of course a ton of extra armor. So that might be another option, or maybe a frozen fist or whatever they call that these days. So I don't know. There's a lot of different build options with him, but I think you're going to have to build a little bit more hybrid now, because you're going to do a little bit less damage. You can't just rely on your sapling, so you're going to have some mana problems if you don't get some kind of mana abilities. So I think going Eye of the Equinox can help you out, can help you become kind of that hybrid tank in the mid game. Eye of the Equinox Redemption, and then Leandri's Torment Void Staff. I'm not sure about the order here. You might still want to go Eye of the Watchers if you really need the mana. The AP is nice, but remember, he really doesn't scale with AP that well. Because percentage-based damage champions typically don't scale with AP that well. It's the spell penetration that he scales with. So, yeah, he's only got a 0.4 scaling on his Q, only a 0.4 on his W, and then only 2 per 100, which is terrible scaling, I think, on his ult. Yeah, so total damage is 4%. I mean, I guess that's okay. So if you get 100 AP, it's 20 total percent of the target's health. So it's okay scaling. It's okay. But, you know, I think that overall, you might have to build him hybrid now. You might have to build him hybrid. But that's okay. Like I said, he can switch gears and do that. He can still do a lot of poke damage, even if you build him hybrid. And you can get like your Knight's Vow, your Redemption, your Eye of the Equinox. You could even get a Locket if you just wanted to go full on, and like Ninja Tabi Boots or something if you just want to go full on like tank with just a little bit of poke to zone people off of Barons and things like that. So I think he can still be very relevant. Okay, let's go ahead and look at Rakan here. So this is a huge nerf to Rakan. They increase the range of his Q, but you don't level this anyways, typically, because it doesn't provide any wave clear, and it actually doesn't heal anymore per level. A lot of people didn't realize that when he first came out. It took me a little bit to realize that, but he doesn't get any extra heal off of leveling up his Q. He only gets a little bit of extra damage. So this scales based on his level. And the AP ratios don't matter because you can't build AP on him, or you're just going to get, like, evaporated. So, you know, it's not going to matter. The range is not going to matter. It'll let you hit it a little bit better. The range was garbage before. Like, it says it was 800, but I highly, highly doubt that. It felt like it was, like, 500, legit. 400 or 500 range. So maybe they changed it. But it's still going to be bad. It's going to do virtually no damage early on. I mean, it's okay at best. It'll help you heal a little bit in lane, but not a big deal. The W buff, not going to matter. You do a little bit of extra damage when you initiate. The thing that matters a lot is the nerf to the E. So now your shield goes from 190 to 150, which is just awful. I mean, yeah, you can cast it twice for a total of a 300 shield, but you used to get a, you know, 380 shield. That's a massive, massive deal. That's 25% less shield. And his shields are more dangerous because you have to jump in and actually get hit by area of effect stuff. That's why I quit playing him as much, because, you know, if you have to jump in to try to shield somebody from a GP barrel or a GP ult or a Zac, you know, a Zac E or a Riven who's coming in hot, you know, you're going to die doing that a lot of time. So that's why he had the bigger shield. So I wish they would have compensated and just given him a lower shield, but help make him shield both targets, himself and somebody else, but he still doesn't do it. So I don't know. He already had enough problems. He's not going to get played in pro. He's not going to get played in pro play because he doesn't have any wave clear. He's already super dangerous. Like, the only time I would ever consider playing him is if you have a Zyra on your, or a Zyra on your team. He's a cool champion. He just, he's got a problem. He's just got a huge itemization problem and like a huge defense problem. Like, you can't really make him that tanky because you can't buy Knight's Vow. You can't buy like Equinox. I have the Equinox because he's considered a ranged champion. So he kind of has that thresh problem where his itemization kind of sucks. But he needs defense. Like, if you could actually build him with Equinox, Knight's Vow, Locket or something like that, then maybe he would be a lot better. But they need to just make him melee. Even if he has range, just make him melee, kind of like a Vel'Koz. That's what I would do. I would do that with Thresh too, but anyways, the itemization is just awful on him. He's just got a lot of problems. I mean, he's okay, but I think there is going to be better choices most of the time. Renekton, I don't think this is going to matter. I mean, it looks like you can still use your Q to bust out of his W like you used to be able to do. Yeah, so they're still letting him do that. So he's still very, very strong. If you don't really know how that works, there are lots of videos on YouTube out there, but basically you used to have Tiamat to cancel his W animation to get more damage in there. But now you can do it with just your Q, so it allows you to be much more aggressive early on and get much cleaner and more powerful damage trades by canceling his animations. So it looks like that's still in place, and I don't really think this is going to change too much. Okay, in terms of Riven, I'm not a Riven expert, so I'm not really a master of what this is going to mean, but I feel like this is going to really power up Riven quite a bit, especially with Death's Dance. If people figure out you can put that on her. So I think that things like a Death's Dance Hydra Riven builds could be really good. Is that how people are building her? Because I know she used to get Bloodthirster. Okay, yeah, people are building Death's Dance on her. They're getting Cleaver first. And Cleaver's good, but I'm not sure that you need to shred that armor. I mean, if you're against a tank, it's okay. I think a lot of people are still building Cleaver too much in the top lane. I mean, I'm not a top lane expert, but especially if you're against another fighter, I feel like you don't have to do that nearly as much. I mean, obviously there are people that are much smarter than me that play top lane and know these matchups a little bit better. But especially against something like a Pantheon, I mean, you know dang well that Pantheon is not going to be building any armor. Like, you don't need to shred his armor. I feel like if you had a Hydra plus a Death's Dance, if you rush those two items, then you would, dominate matchups a lot easier. Now, Pantheon's a little bit different because he automatically procs all of this with his combo. Riven is not going to proc it, or is not going to stack the Cleaver as fast. Like, she has to go through her full rotation to be able to stack it. But anyways, I think that it'll probably become more popular to go like Death's Dance Hydra, or maybe Hydra Death's Dance on champions like Riven, Fiora. Are people doing it on Fiora yet? Or are people still building? Hydra is a must on Fiora. I think people are still going, Hydra into... That is absolutely disgusting. I cannot believe that. How did he win? God, he got carried so hard. Ugh. God, it makes me want to throw up. Boy the Ruined King on Fiora. Are you kidding me? Really? You're going to get Boy the Ruined King rather than Death's Dance on Fiora? Disgusting. Anyways, yeah, it's still... People are not leveraging this item nearly enough. I'll talk about that when I talk about my meta-analysis, but once people figure that out, once they start going like Death's Dance, like Hydra Death's Dance on a lot of these top lane champions, because that gives you double lifesteal, it gives you the protection. First of all, it has a lot of AD on it. It's got 10% cooldown, so it's only 10% less than the Cleaver, but it's got double the attack damage of the Cleaver, and it has defense on it. This is very, very good. Like that 30% mitigation that it does there, or the 30% mitigation that bleed over time is a big deal, especially if you have double lifesteal, because that allows you to lifesteal back through a lot of the damage. So I think that's pretty massive. Like, yeah, you don't have the armor shredding as you do with the Cleaver, but you get that extra 40 damage. I would have to do the math on it to see. Now, you don't get the extra HP, but you get the bleed instead. I don't know. Cleaver is still obviously really good, but I just feel like people are really underestimating Death's Dance. But anyways, I think that Riven, that's going to be a big deal for Riven. I'm not sure about all the canceling auto attack animations and things like that. But I feel like if you're a Riven main, that's going to be really, really good for you. But we'll see just how powerful she becomes. But yeah, I think she'll be good. Anyways, Sejuani, minor nerf. I mean, it is going to be a nerf for like the first second that she engages. She's basically not invulnerable anymore. But that's fine. Like, she has so much excess power in her kit that's fine. Like, if you're wondering why Sejuani's broken, like Scara was saying, he didn't understand because he hadn't played in the last couple of weeks. I don't know how you're a major, like, League of Legends personality and you don't play League of Legends for, like, 2 weeks. But anyways, he said he hadn't played in a couple of weeks. I love Scar. I say that with love. She has so much excess power now. So yeah, she's not completely immune to damage anymore for however long, a couple of seconds. But that's not what makes her strong. What makes her strong is that all of this stuff does a ton of extra damage. Like, she's good as a tank and she's good with tanks. So this does a ton of damage overall to tanks. It's very spammable. It's got some decent disruption to it. And it's this permafrost that, you know, can stun for 2 seconds. 2 second stun duration. So yeah, that's a huge deal. Like, a 2 second stun is massive. And you could just keep stunning everybody. Like, it's not just the first person. I think this puts frost on everybody. Yeah, nearby allied champions' basic attacks apply frost. So it's not just you, it's all of your allies apply frost. So if you're just in a team fight, their entire team is going to get frosted. And then you just click, 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 and you can just 2 second stun everybody and just keep chain stunning people. And then every time you stun somebody, it's going to do, you know, 15% of their maximum health at level 7. I mean, it's just a lot of stun, a lot of crowd control, and she has really good initiation that also stuns and does an obscene amount of damage. So yeah, I mean, she's just the standard formula of mega tanky, almost unkillable, lots of good sticking power, good initiation, and tons of damage, even to tanks. So yeah, she's still going to be a massive problem. You're still going to have to ban her virtually every game. She's really, really strong. So yeah, that's going to make sure she's not invulnerable early on. But she's still going to be super strong. Zac, I don't think is going to matter that much. He's still going to get outclassed in the jungle. It's going to help his sustain and his clear, but he's still, like, you know, he has to land his E's to be effective, and he could get knocked out of the air by Janna, Thresh, or just other, you know, people can blink out of it or dodge his E. Like, he's effective, but not nearly as much as other options, I don't think. So he's okay. He's probably like a B or maybe a C lister. Not a huge deal. I don't think this matters with Udyr. I mean, maybe, but it shouldn't matter that much. Yorick, probably not going to matter. I'm not really sure. I'm not a Yorick main, but I don't think this is going to all of a sudden make him, you know, top tier, top laner. This stuff's not going to matter too much. I actually have come to realize that coin is not that good on most champions. Like, the extra skill point is nice, but it just lacks any sort of active combat stats. So anything that could potentially get hit or, like, fight other people is just not going to be good. So that's virtually everybody except for Janna. I mean, Janna still has enough wiliness where she can just get away and it doesn't matter what her item is. And she's really, in particular, she's really bad with the spell thieves because you don't have a great way to proc it in lane outside of auto attacks. And her auto attack range is so low and does so little damage that it's just too risky to be worth it. So Janna is one of the only champions in the game where I would say you would still want to buy the coin. Everyone else, you want spell thieves. This extra regen doesn't matter. Okay, total. Okay, so they were going to increase the cost, but they didn't increase the cost. Okay. So you get a little bit more health regen. I mean, maybe in the laning phase this would be useful. to some extent. I mean, you get 25%. That's 100% more bonus health regen than you had before. So for the laning phase, that could be useful against tough lanes. That's good. It's good. I just don't think it's... I mean, it's not going to make people who weren't going to buy coin all of a sudden want to buy coin. So it's okay. This, however, is pretty good. I mean, Relic Shield, one of the problems is you have to walk up and actually land those hits. Okay, but this is only for final form, so it's not going to help you in lane. But if you rush Eye of Equinox, it will help you get some of those last hits and not get like minion blocked and not have to put yourself in danger as much. So you should be rushing Eye of the Equinox on tank champions anyways. So yeah, I think that that's a pretty helpful change, especially in the late game. Spell Thieves, I don't think that matters that much. If you accidentally kill minions, you're not penalized as much, but it's okay. Spirit Visage, not gonna matter. You get a little bit less base health regen. I mean, it's not great. It's just a slightly less mana or like gold efficient item. You get some more health. You get a little bit less magic resist. And that's probably about a wash. Like 5 magic resist is worth, 90 gold. So you lose a 90, 25 HP is worth 66 gold. So you're losing about 20, 23, 24 gold in this little exchange here. And this you're losing 100% base mana or base health regen. That's probably, worth, I don't even know, like a couple hundred gold or something. So I mean, you're losing maybe 150, 200 gold worth of gold efficiency off of this item, which isn't great, but it's okay. I think this does open up the path for a lot of people to go for Abyssal Scepter now. So unless you actively have something that's going to heal you, then you'd probably want to go Abyssal Scepter. But that's fine. Rift Herald, none of that matters. Yeah, none of the rest of this matters. Yeah. You can mute pings and stuff like that. I mean, that's cool, but it's not going to affect gameplay, really, I don't think. Okay, so meta predictions. How are we looking on time? We're over time. Let's see if we can get to an hour and a half here. Utility supports are still going to be on top. The plus healing stat is going to scale absurdly well. Eye of the Watchers dramatically going to help many unsafe utility supports. So particularly Sona, Nami, and Soraka are much better with that speed boost off of the upgraded Spell Thieves line. So this is probably why you're seeing a lot more Sona. You're seeing her perform very well is because one of her key weaknesses was that she didn't have a lot of escapes, and this helps her escape a lot better. So the Spell Thieves very good on Sona. It's pretty good on Nami and Soraka as well. So I think that makes them all a lot stronger. It doesn't matter for Janna. She was already super safe, and she just goes for the coin items. But overall, very good for the other utility supports. They got even more stronger. The rich got richer. I didn't expect that when I talked about my 7.9, but I've come to really learn that Spell Thieves is quite powerful on a lot of people. Not to mention they get the extra 10 AP, which is a big deal. And you don't need the mana regen as much. I thought that might be a big deal that it cut from 100% mana regen to 50. But almost all of these champions are going to get Mikael's and Ardent Censer anyways, and you're just going to be flooded with mana regen once you get Redemption, Ardent Censer, and Mikael's. So it's not really a very big deal that you don't have as much mana regen. What? What? I'm in the middle of a video. What's wrong? Alright, I'll be in there in a second. Just... Okay. My wife's just really emotional right now, I guess. I don't know. It didn't sound like it was anything super urgent. Okay, so AP supports are going to be pretty strong against a lot of these utility supports. So Fiddlesticks in particular is a lot stronger than I thought he was going to be. I already knew he was a pretty good support, but I moved him up a little bit on the tier list this time. The reason is the move speed from that Eye of the Watchers is massive with his ult. It really lets you reposition and make sure that you're in everyone's face. It's a lot harder to kite him, because now even if he clips you just a little bit with his ult, you can't run out of it because he's going to get that 50% move speed to go in and chase you, and it's going to refresh the 50% as he gets closer, so he can get up to 3 seconds of 50% move speed into you. So he's getting into you. If he even barely touches you with his ult, he's going into you. So he doesn't necessarily have to have his flash anymore if people are really quick to try to jump out of his ult. So he can run in there, although having the flash still helps. You can run in, fear him, and then reposition right into the middle of them. So that really helps him out a ton, and it helps him escape. So now if someone's trying to chase him down, you know, he can just throw his E at him from a long distance, silence him, and then, you know, run away really quickly. Okay, and then this also helps Zyra and Maokai as well to an extent. So Maokai can, you know, bramble smash people and run away with that 50% move speed. Zyra can just drop a Q plant or an E plant, and then as it hits somebody, you continually refresh and get that 50%, so you can get up to 30 or 3 seconds of 50% move speed to run out of places. So it makes these really dangerous AP supports a lot more manageable. Also, the Banshee's Veil helps out a ton, because now you can't get hooked by Blitz as much, you can't get hooked by Thresh, you can't get, you know, stunned by Lux or Morg when you have your Banshee's Veil up, so it helps out a ton in terms of not getting picked with some of these squishier AP supports. So I think that it's going to be quite good on this patch. It was quite good on the last patch. It'll continue to be good. And a lot of comps now that are running more of these kind of all AD setups, you know, you've got your Fiora top, your Yi, and your Zed middle, something like that. Then now you can run an AP support and be pretty effective. Because in 7.8, it was a lot tougher because people could get caught out and killed. Fiddle could get caught out and killed. Zyra could get caught out and killed. And the Banshees and the new Watcher make that a lot easier to manage. Okay. I think that Death's Dance is going to be a lot more powerful, as I just talked about a second ago. So people are starting to understand the power of Death's Dance, but they still aren't getting it enough. It's crazy. It's really, really good. I know it's good on Fiora because I've played it a lot. I think it's really good on Riven. It's really good on Darius. But I think it can even be good on a lot of AD carries. So people like their lifesteal in lane. You know, a lot of people, it just helps out with trades. And people just love their lifesteal, right? It just makes it a lot safer in lane. You have more staying power. You can take some more bad trades. You don't have to be, you know, an expert with your positioning if you have lifesteal in lane. So Vamp Scepter, very popular. And that's a huge part of why people get Blade of the Ruined King, is because they want that lifesteal in lane. But the problem with Blade of the Ruined King is and I'm not going to go over that again here, but you know that's the most hated item of all time. It's my most hated item of all time. Absolutely hate that item. And I'm so happy. If we look at the surrender at 20, I was just looking at this last night. Someone pointed this out. Next patch, they're testing for 7.11 for ranged champions only dealing 4% of the target's current health instead of 8%. So it's going to do 50% less damage on its passive for ranged people. And finally, hallelujah, once and for all, ranged champions might quit building this item. I really, really hope so. But anyways, that's not this patch that's coming up. But I think that a good replacement for that is Death's Dance, and it's a lot more appropriate for most champions. So it does still give you that lifesteal, 15%. So it's about the same as Blade of the Ruined King, but this also applies to abilities. So not just... What? So... it also applies to abilities. It doesn't just apply to auto attacks. So the thing about Blade of the Ruined King is this percentage-based damage. You would also get healed for that amount. So it would give you a good chunk of healing. But it did not affect abilities. It only affected the Blade of the Ruined King percentage-based damage that you're doing. However, Death's Dance also affects your abilities. So if you use like a Lucian Q, it'll heal you for all of the things you hit with the Q. If you use your Zyra E to wave clear a bunch of stuff, it'll heal you for all of the E. So it still has a massive amount of healing, but it gives you 10% cooldown, which is a huge perk over Blade of the Ruined King. And it also gives you double the damage. So instead of doing, 40 AD, all of a sudden you're going to do 80, and it gives you protection. So it gives you, the 30% bleed effect, which is really, really good because it helps shield champions and heal champions pick you up. So, for example, I've been playing with a Draven lately, dueling with a Draven who rushes Death's Dance, and I play Janna with him. And then that way, even if my shield only has 1 second left and he would normally get bursted out and killed by a Fizz or something, then I can shield him and help him survive the bleed damage. Or like a Soraka can heal you through the bleed. Or you can lifesteal it yourself through the bleed damage. So a lot of people really underestimate, but delaying 30% of the damage you're going to take for 3 seconds is a really, really big deal. So I think that this is going to be, once people figure it out, this is going to be the de facto new build on a lot of champions bot lane. Is going to be rush, Death's Dance, and then go into your attack speed item. So one thing about Lucian, he doesn't really need that attack speed that much off of Blade Ruin King either. Like, he's not an auto attack champion, he's a combo champion. So, he wants to cast his ability and then go in, double shot, cast another ability and just stick and move. He doesn't want to sit there and auto attack a lot of times. So the attack speed, I mean, it's good, like, it's okay on him, but I just think that like a Death's Dance Lucian build, maybe Death's Dance into Phantom Dancer or something like that, could create a very, very powerful duelist build. Death's Dance into Phantom Dancer into Infinity Edge or Essence Reaver or something like that, I think will be good. I think either Essence Reaver or Death's Dance is going to replace Bork. And I think that if people want lifesteal, then Death's Dance is a really good choice for early game fighting. So we'll see how it pans out. But I think like a sample build on a lot of champions could be something like Death's Dance into Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer or Hurricane, depending on your persuasion, Infinity Edge, and then like Quicksilver Sash, something like that. So yeah, I think that Death's Dance, you're going to see it a lot more once people figure out the power of this, and especially in 7.11. Once they change around Bork and people finally realize they shouldn't be building that item, Riot's just like, no, seriously, stop building that item once and for all, then I think Death's Dance will be really powerful. So I think Banshee's Veil is still going to dominate the mid lane. So, expect more from Syndra and Ahri. Fizz and Annie are still going to suffer, especially with those Fizz nerfs. Any other champion that has a hard time against Banshee's Veils, like a Thresh or a Blitz, will also take a little bit of a hit as people figure out that Banshee's Veil is actually really, really good and start building it even more. Some people are figuring it out, but there's still a decent chunk of AP mid laners that still aren't getting that item, and they should in most matchups. What? Okay. Sorry, I don't know what's going on in there. I'll have to figure it out. I'm gonna wrap this up in maybe like 15 minutes or so. How are we looking on time? Yeah, that'll probably be all right. Okay. So the top 5 for each role. I think for this patch, you'll see top lane Fiora, Darius, Pantheon, Riven, and Rumble. I've switched that up a little bit from last patch. I don't remember who I had up there, but I still think Fiora is probably number 1. I think that Darius is extremely powerful right now. He just beats up on a lot of these other matchups. It's just so difficult to deal with Darius, especially if he runs like this Ghost Flash build. Like, he's not going to have the teleport, but I feel like Ghost, it's just like you're dead if he ghosts onto you. And is able to stick to you and dunk you, you're going to die. So I think that the Ghost Flash build, especially for solo queue, is really difficult to deal with. I've had to play against that as Fiora before, and it just feels like you just can't really do a lot in that matchup. Pantheon is still a solo queue crusher. I mean, he's something that a lot of boosters play a lot. And the deal with Pantheon is he just absolutely murders almost everybody top lane. He'll zone people off of CS, and he can teleport and catch other people out of position. So he preys on teams that don't communicate, that he's missing very well. He gets double kills, and he can just completely dominate top lane. Even without Ignite, you can just run Teleport Pantheon and just take over. If the jungler doesn't come up there to help, then you can win almost any matchup with Pantheon. He's very, very oppressive. Now, he's not good later on in the game, so you need to close it out early, and those aren't typically the type of champions that I like, but he's so oppressive early on. especially if your jungler comes up there, it's basically a guaranteed kill every time. That he's really good. Now, he does rely on things like Ghost Blade, Dusk Blade, things like that, but which are nerfed items, and they aren't very good later in the game, and they aren't good against tanks. But against Squishy's top, you know, if he's against a Fiora or a Riven or something, I think he's just going to absolutely crush him. Riven with the new buffs, I'm predicting, will be very strong top lane, especially if they start going for like a Death Dance Hydra build. I'm not sure why they don't run Hydra on Riven. It feels like you could weave a Hydra into her combo somewhere in there and be alright, but maybe not. I'm not a Riven expert, but I think the double lifesteal would be really good with her. And then finally, Rumble. I think Rumble's pretty good against a lot of these squishies. He's got a pretty good matchup against Darius as well. Now, he's not good against Mega Tanks top lane, because they can just get Spirit Visage, so he kind of has a problem against Darius. He would have a problem against, like, a Swain top or a, trying to think, like a Gragas or something top. And Gragas could very well be a very top-tier top laner. I just kind of kept tanks out of this, I mean, except for Darius. Tanks are good top lane, but they just can't snowball as hard as some of the other champions. It's totally possible that Renekton needs to be up here too. I've seen Renekton's losing a lot lately. I don't think Renekton has a particularly good matchup against Fiora or Darius. But maybe, I don't know. Like, Renekton totally could be in the top 5. I mean, he's really good, especially with how you can auto attack or animation cancel with his Q now. Like, cancel your W with his Q. So he's got some good combos, but I think these are probably a little bit more, they're just stronger if you're just trying to climb as fast as possible. Mid lane, Kassadin absolutely has to be banned every game. Ahri has to be banned every game. They're both obscenely powerful right now. I ban Ahri on stream a lot of times because Kassadin is a less popular pick, but Kassadin's probably more dangerous than Ahri. They're both absolutely nasty. Like, you have to get rid of them. They're just too mobile. They do too much damage. They're too snowbally. They just completely prey on inexperienced players a lot, and they can just completely take over a game if they get ahead in lane. Their roaming is just out of control. Syndra's another one who's really strong. She's really hard to play to an extent. She's easier to play around than Ahri or Kassadin because she's immobile. But she's still really strong, really high burst damage. LeBlanc can be just as powerful as Ahri or Kassadin. Potentially, maybe not quite that big, but she can be strong. I have her ranked a little bit lower, just because she's much harder to use. But with the new Gunblade build, then she's very powerful as well. And Anivia is kind of a different style, but she's really good at wave clear, really good at sieging, great objective control, massive scaling, massive damage. So I think that Anivia is like an easier to play and a little bit more safe of a champion than the other ones. And she's just okay, even if you don't get like massively ahead early. She's just a nice, solid mid laner that has good utility. Ziggs could be there too, as sort of your poke wave clear champion. Or Anivia doesn't have poke, I guess, but Ziggs has the wave clear, and he's less safe, but he has more offensive, more poke. So it's just kind of two sides of the same coin. Ziggs definitely could deserve to be in the top, but it does make me a little scared to have Kassadin or Ahri or Syndra up against Ziggs or LeBlanc. I think all of these four would just crush him. Whereas, like, Anivia would have an okay time against them, sort of. Okay. And a lot of this is because the popular counters to these types of champions have been nerfed so much. So, you know, Talon was nerfed a lot. Pantheon was nerfed a lot indirectly through the lethality nerfs. So this makes Kassadin just out of control powerful. And then Banshee's Veil makes Ahri much better against champions historically that have been good against her, like Annie. And the numerous nerfs to Ryze have completely pushed him out of the meta, and he used to be very good against Ahri as well. So these two champions just don't have counters right now, except Kassadin counter to Ahri. But other than that, they're just both absurd. All right, in the jungle, Master Yi, I think he's taken over again. He's my top slot. They just nerfed, as I explained a little bit ago, they nerfed all the early game junglers. So I think that sets him up to regain his throne. This is the booster champion. Like, if boosters out there that, and boosting is a real thing. People ask me about that on stream. They're like, boosting's not a real thing. That's just what people talk about. It is absolutely 100% a real thing. It's no joke. I mean, you can go right here, get your accounts boosted, you know, up and get those gold rewards, get that platinum border, whatever you want there are dozens of boost sites. This is a real thing. You pay someone money, they log into your account, and they boost your account. I've run into these champions before, and people told me I was crazy, and I don't remember. Let me see if I can find one of those really quickly. It's from like a couple of days ago. I was playing something. I'm trying to remember the name. Wish I could search by champion here. And I know it was a loss, and I know there was a Master Yi. Let me see. I didn't pre-prepare this, but see if I can spot it really quickly, because I do want to show you that this does exist. It was during the day. I was practicing something weird during the day. I don't remember what it was. I can't remember offhand, but there was this guy that was just like so obviously boosted. It might have been a Fiora game. Boost. Let's look for like 1 or 2 more seconds, and then we'll move on. But yeah, there was this one dude that was just like straight up, like just boosting people. And I wish I could look it up by champion, but it looks like I may not be able to find it. But this is a very popular thing that you'll see a lot. Oh, here, was this it? I don't remember if this was or not. Yes. Okay. So this is it. This was the guy. And this is why I say Master Yi is so high. And people are just like, why is Master Yi so, you know, so strong? Okay. Look at this. This is a 100%. This guy is a boosted account. 110% boosted account. So you notice his win ratio right now is 54%. Okay. Now he has an 88% win ratio with Master Yi. And before he had played that, he had like a 34% win ratio. He was like, he started off in like Silver 4 or something. And he had like a, you know, like a 30% win rate or something. It was something awful. He was like, I don't remember. He was like 30 and 37 or something like that. And he had just played, you know, like maybe one game every couple of days. You know, if you look back over this, like, you know, he played, you know, one game 6 days ago, a couple of games, you know, 9 days ago, 10 days ago. He hadn't played in like a week. You know, he played an ARAM before that. So it's like, you know, every couple of days, this dude would just play a game. He never played Master Yi, ever. If you look at his match history. You can't go back any more than this. But he just like, he never played Master Yi. You know, he was dying a lot. Even though he would win games, he would still die a ton. He'd have like 12 kills, 8, 10 kills. 3 and 16. How does that possibly happen? Like 3 and 16, 2 and 8. So the guy, you know, had some problems, right? Like he was doing okay. But then magically, all of a sudden, just one day, right? Just one day, 6 days ago, he just thinks to himself, I think I'll play Master Yi. And I think I'll play 12 games in a day when I haven't even played 12 games in a month, the previous month. So then he just decides, oh, let me play Master Yi. And all of a sudden, 13 and 4, 9 and 3, 17 and 5, 18 and 10, 17 and 3, 20 and 2, 15 and 3, 10 and 1, 13 and 5, 10 and 1, 8 and 4, 7 and 1. Like, absolutely insane. For like, basically 1 day straight. And he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 games in one single day with a guy who had only played one every now and then. This is real. This is a boosted account, like 100%. And I played against this guy, and this guy was unstoppable. This is like a master or challenger level Yi player. So it's a real deal. Boosting is a real thing. And there are certain champions that are very good that boosters use. And Master Yi is one of them. Pantheon's one of them. LeBlanc's one of them. And so that's why it's on the tier list. And it's a real deal. And so people might have run into a booster out there. It's not a myth. It's not a legend. It's a real thing that people pay for. And it does ruin the game for a lot of people. But anyways, Master Yi is a booster. He is a champion that boosts because he can take over games by himself. He can literally 1v9 if you're really good with Master Yi and you take over. And that's why he's my #1 jungle slot for most people, is he's absolutely ridiculously powerful. And there's probably videos on YouTube that'll show you how to get really good with him. But he's the #1 booster, and so that's why he's my #1 jungler. Sejuani, I think, is also powerful. Ivern's very strong. Elise is very strong. And Gragas is strong. So Ivern fell a little bit because he got nerfed. I still think he's great, especially if you're a support main. He can be quite strong. Sejuani, still overpowered, still really good. Elise is going to be a lot better because the other early game junglers got nerfed, like Lee Sin and Lee Sin, Graves, and Ivern all got nerfed early. So that makes Elise kind of top of the ladder in terms of early game aggression. And then I still think Gragas is really good as sort of a disruptive tank out of the jungle, especially if Sejuani's banned. Okay, AD, I still think Draven's #1 right now. Once people figure out about that Death's Dance build, I think he'll be even more popular. Twitch, still really good for reasons I've described before. His invisibility, his scaling are both super strong. He can have a tough early game. But, I mean, heck, maybe even Death's Dance on Twitch. I don't know. That's a bit of a stretch, but it could still be really good. Caitlyn, still very good, solid in almost every matchup. You really can't go wrong with the Kate. She's quite strong. Xayah, I think if Xayah starts building Death's Dance instead of Bork or Essence Reaver, either one, I think she's very strong. And I think Lucian with Death's Dance could actually be quite good as well. If he quits building the Bork and he gets serious and builds Essence Reaver or Death's Dance, I think he can be really strong. I'm debating whether or not I want to just stop the video here and just do the tier list in another video. We'll just go through it really quick. Let's just go through it really quick here, and then we'll move on. We'll try to get this all into one video, although it might be, you know, an hour 45, 2-hour video, something like that, which I probably should just split these up again into 2 different videos. I always think I can do it faster than I can. Honey. Okay, well, my wife really wants me to talk to her about something, so I guess I'll do the support tier list video as a second one, and I'm just going to keep the same Google Doc, so you can look at it here, but if you want to watch my other video, I'll go through as soon as I finish it, and I'll put a link here so you can go to the tier list video, and then I'll go through a little bit more depth, and we'll see if we can keep it to about a 30-minute tier list video. And I'll go in depth about each one of these decisions as we go through. But anyways, that's going to be it for the patch notes analysis and the metagame predictions. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the tier list video. I will release that over the next day or so. After the stream, I'll shoot it tonight, and then we'll upload it and have it ready by tomorrow. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.